The wind howled across the frozen plains of Cryavara, carrying tiny shards of ice that cut at the skin like knives. The sky was a pale, ghostly white, blending almost seamlessly with the endless sheets of snow below. Two figures moved cautiously, struggling with each step as the icy ground threatened to swallow their feet. They were sisters, alien in form but remarkably human-like in posture and emotion, their bodies cloaked in thin survival suits that shivered with every gust of the bitter wind. Lyra, the older of the two, scanned the horizon, her sharp eyes narrowing against the blizzard. Nivara, the younger, staggered beside her, clearly exhausted, her breathing ragged under the suit's mask. "This storm, it's worse than I expected," Lyra murmured, her voice almost lost in the roar of the wind. "We should have prepared better." Nivara shivered violently, hugging herself in a futile attempt to keep warm. I can't feel my legs. It's too cold, we'll never make it." Her voice trembled, a rare crack of fear showing in her usually calm demeanor. Lyra placed a reassuring hand on her sister's shoulder. "We have to. We survive together. Always together." But even as she said it, a pang of doubt struck her heart. Their small ship had been destroyed by a meteor storm hours ago, leaving them stranded on a planet where no alien rescue fleet could reach them in time. They had thought themselves prepared for the harshness of Cryavora, but nothing could prepare them for the absolute, merciless cold that gnawed at their very bodies. As the sisters pressed forward, their movements slow and uncertain, Lyra's eyes caught a flicker of something in the distance. At first, she thought it was a trick of the storm, a reflection of the ice or a distant lightning flash. But then she saw it again, a small figure moving steadily toward them, defying the wind with every step. "Do you see that?" Lyra asked, pointing toward the shape. Nivara squinted through the visor of her suit. I think so," she said weakly. "It's moving." The figure grew closer, and soon it was clear that it was a human. Ethan, as he would later introduce himself, moved with an ease that seemed impossible given the harsh conditions. His suit was far more advanced than the sisters' own, equipped with heat regulators and stabilizers that allowed him to fight against the cold. His movements were deliberate, confident, and entirely fearless. Lyra's heart pounded in disbelief. Humans were supposed to be fragile. Stories among their people often mocked humans as weak, vulnerable, incapable of surviving harsh environments without sophisticated alien support. Yet this one, he moved through the storm as if it were a gentle breeze. Without warning, Ethan adjusted the straps on his pack and began to run, closing the distance faster than either sister expected. The wind screamed louder now, and the sisters struggled to stay on their feet. Nivara's strength faltered completely and she stumbled to the ground, her body nearly frozen. "Wait!" Lyra shouted, but the storm swallowed her voice. She raced to her sister, only to see Ethan reach them first. Without hesitation, he scooped Nivara into his arms. The sisters froze for a moment, caught between awe and disbelief. Lyra's mind raced. "This human, he's risking his life for us." Ethan's voice cut through the storm, calm but firm. "Hold on, I've got you. You'll be safe." Lyra didn't question him. She focused instead on keeping pace, staggering through the snow as he carried Nivara toward a small ridge. There, partially buried by the wind, was a temporary shelter, nothing more than a dome of reinforced ice and metal, likely a survival outpost abandoned long ago. Ethan ducked inside, brushing snow from Nivara's face, and quickly activated a portable heating unit. Warm air flowed immediately, filling the cramped space with a comforting, almost foreign sensation to the sisters. Lyra sank to her knees, shivering uncontrollably, while Nivara clutched Ethan's jacket, tears freezing on her cheeks. "Thank you," Lyra whispered, barely audible. Ethan knelt beside Nivara, adjusting her suit and turning knobs on the heater. "You're safe now, just breathe. You're going to be okay." The sisters exchanged a look that spoke volumes, grateful, wary, and astonished all at once. They had expected to survive Cryovara on their own, relying on skill, strategy, and training. Dependence on others, especially humans, had never been part of their code. Yet here they were, saved by one. As the storm raged outside, Ethan shared rations and water, patiently explaining how to use them. Lyra observed silently, noting how efficient he was, how methodical and precise. Humans were often underestimated by alien societies, including her own, but this one was remarkable. He moved with calm confidence, never showing fear, never faltering. When the initial shock passed and the sisters felt their limbs slowly regaining warmth, Ethan spoke again. "I need to know who you are. Your species, you're not from around here, are you?" Lyra hesitated, then nodded. "We are from Urindor, a planet in the Valdarian cluster. Our ship was destroyed in the storm. We thought we would die here." Ethan nodded solemnly. "That's why I came. I've been mapping these regions and searching for survivors. You were lucky I found you." Lyra and Navara exchanged glances. "Lucky?" Lyra whispered, almost to herself. She had always thought of luck as a trivial thing, something humans relied on. But maybe humans had a kind of strength that didn't exist in their own species. Hours passed, and the storm showed no signs of easing. Ethan managed to build a small fire inside the shelter using portable heating gels, the glow reflecting off the icy walls. He shared stories of Earth, tales of exploration, courage, and survival. The sisters listened, captivated by his voice and his knowledge. For the first time, they felt a curiosity that went beyond survival. They wanted to understand this human, to comprehend the mind of someone who seemed so ordinary yet so extraordinary. Navara, who had remained quiet for most of the evening, finally spoke. You are not afraid," Ethan tilted his head. "Afraid of what?" "Of the storm, of freezing, of helping strangers." Her voice was small, almost childlike in its wonder. "I've faced storms before," Ethan said simply. "I've faced worse than this. And helping others, it's not fear, it's choice. I choose to help because it's the right thing to do." The sisters fell silent, the words settling over them like a warm blanket. Courage, they realized, wasn't just about physical strength. It was about the choices one made, the risks one took for others without expecting anything in return. As the night deepened, the sisters curled together near the heater, still wary but no longer paralyzed by fear. Lyra studied Ethan, noticing small details. The way he adjusted the heater to maximize warmth, the careful way he monitored their condition, the unwavering calm in his eyes. She realized something she had never admitted before. Humans could be far stronger than her people gave them credit for. By the first light of the next day, the storm began to subside, leaving a serene but harsh landscape behind. Snow glittered like diamonds, and the sun, faint and cold, barely illuminated the endless white plains. Lyra and Navara stepped outside, their movements stronger now, though still careful. Ethan led the way, scanning the horizon for safe paths, showing a level of awareness and strategy that impressed the sisters. "Why do you help us?" Navara asked, her voice filled with genuine curiosity. Ethan smiled faintly. "Because I can. Because it's the right thing to do. And because no one should face something like this alone." Lyra's heart swelled with admiration, though she tried to hide it. She had been taught that vulnerability was a weakness, that dependence on others could only lead to failure. Yet she could not deny the truth of what she saw. Here was a human, flawed, fragile by her species' standards, but undeniably strong, capable, and honorable. The sisters spent the next few hours preparing themselves for the journey ahead. Ethan helped them repair portions of their suits, showing them ways to conserve heat and energy. He taught them simple survival techniques for Cryovara's deadly terrain, all while observing their reactions carefully. The sisters learned quickly, but more importantly, they began to trust him. Trust, they realized, was as vital as any tool or weapon. By the time the sun began to dip toward the horizon, painting the ice in shades of gold and pink. Lyra and Navara were no longer just survivors. They were companions in a way that transcended species. They had seen the limits of their own strength and discovered something they had never expected: that humans, despite their perceived fragility, could embody a form of courage, loyalty, and ingenuity that rivaled even the most advanced alien civilizations. And as the stars emerged, twinkling coldly in the night sky above Cryovara, the sisters made a silent vow to themselves. They would follow this human, not just because he saved their lives, but because they had glimpsed a kind of greatness in him that demanded their respect, and perhaps something more. The storm had passed, but the journey was just beginning. And in the distance, beyond the glimmering ice and the endless white plains, the three unlikely companions prepared to face the unknown together, bound by survival, trust, and the first seeds of admiration that neither species had ever expected to find in the other: the icy plains of Cryovara stretched endlessly under a pale, frozen sky. Lyra, Navara, and Ethan moved cautiously, each step crunching against the brittle snow. Though the storm had passed, the world remained a dangerous expanse of ice and wind. The sisters' suits were patched and warmed, but the cold still seeped into their bones. Ethan walked slightly ahead, scanning the terrain for unstable ice and hidden crevasses, his movements deliberate and confident. The sisters had begun to follow him instinctively. At first it had been out of necessity. He had saved their lives, but now their steps beside him felt natural, almost protective. Lyra could not deny the bond that had formed. Every glance he cast, every careful gesture he made, showed a strength and courage that went beyond mere survival. Humans, she realized, were underestimated in every way. "This way," Ethan said, pointing toward a distant ridge where patches of exposed rock jutted through the ice. "If we reach that outcrop, we can get a better view of the terrain. There might be safe paths for us." Navara hesitated. "Are you sure it's safe? The ice, it looks thin there." Ethan nodded calmly. "I'll check first. Step where I step and stay close." The sisters obeyed without question. Each movement reinforced a sense of trust that had been forged in the fire of survival. As they reached the outcrop, a breathtaking panorama unfolded before them. Endless glaciers stretched in every direction, with faint blue shadows where deep crevasses cut into the ice. A herd of native cryovaran beasts grazed in the distance, their thick fur and massive bodies adapted to the cold, yet even they seemed vulnerable under the harsh sunlight. "Beautiful," Lyra whispered, though her voice carried a hint of tension. "And dangerous." Ethan smiled faintly. "The beauty of this world doesn't make it any less deadly." As the sisters took in the view, a sudden sound froze them in place. A deep rumble echoed across the ice, followed by a sharp cracking noise. Lyra's eyes widened. "Avalanche!" she shouted, grabbing Navara's arm. Ethan reacted instantly. "Move, follow me." He led them down a safer slope, using a combination of careful steps and controlled slides to avoid the falling ice. The sisters followed, hearts pounding, adrenaline sharpening their senses. The avalanche thundered behind them, snow and ice crashing across the plains. Only when they reached a small cluster of ice-covered boulders did Ethan stop and check on them. "You're both okay?" he asked, his voice steady. Lyra nodded, still catching her breath. Navara, however, looked shaken. I thought we were done for," she admitted, her voice trembling. Ethan crouched beside her, placing a firm hand on her shoulder. "You're stronger than you realize. You survived the storm. You survived Cryovara. You'll survive this too." His words had a strange weight. Lyra had heard speeches about courage and strength from leaders of her own species, but none of them had carried the sincerity and power that Ethan's did. The sisters shared a glance, a silent acknowledgement that this human was unlike any they had ever known. For the next several hours, they moved carefully across the plains, collecting materials to repair the sisters' communication device. Ethan taught them how to use simple tools to patch cracks in the suit's insulation, how to identify safe ice formations, and how to read subtle signs in the environment that indicated danger. Lyra marveled at his patience. Even when they made mistakes, Ethan corrected them gently, never raising his voice or showing frustration. By midday, the sisters had grown more confident. They were no longer trembling with cold or fear, but their focus remained sharp, their movements cautious. Yet beneath the surface, another feeling was growing, an attachment to the human who had saved them, who had guided them, and who had never wavered in his determination to protect them. As they stopped to rest near a small crevice, Ethan unpacked some rations. The sisters hesitated, but he offered them food with a warm smile. "Eat. You'll need strength for what's ahead." Lyra took a bite, watching him carefully. You make it seem so easy. How can one human survive here when even the strongest of our kind struggle?" Ethan shrugged, eating his own ration. "It's not about being the strongest. It's about making choices, staying calm, and using what you have wisely. That's all any of us can do." Navarra nodded slowly. "I never thought humans could be like this, so brave, so clever." Ethan smiled, though he remained humble. "Humans are just adaptable. We find ways to survive, and sometimes we help others along the way." The sisters exchanged another glance, the unspoken truth clear between them. They had come to depend on him, not just for survival, but for guidance, for protection, and for the quiet strength that made them feel safe in a world that had offered nothing but danger until now. As evening approached, the icy plains began to take on a silvery glow. The sisters set up a temporary shelter, following Ethan's instructions. Together, they built walls of ice and snow, reinforced with metal fragments from their damaged ship. Ethan showed them how to create a small heated chamber inside, using minimal energy but maximum effect. By the time the shelter was ready, the temperature inside was almost comfortable, and the sisters could feel the warmth seeping into their bones. Sitting together in the small chamber, Lyra finally spoke. "Ethan, we received a signal from our home planet. They are insisting we return immediately." Ethan looked up, his expression calm. "And do you want to go back?" Lyra hesitated. She glanced at Navarra, who shook her head ever so slightly. We are not sure. Not yet," Lyra admitted. The human nodded slowly, understanding more in their silence than their words could convey. "You don't have to decide right now. You're safe here with me. You can rest, recover, and then make your choice." Over the next days, the three companions continued their work. They repaired the communication device, tested survival equipment, and learned more about each other. Ethan taught them how to navigate using the stars, how to predict storms, and how to find hidden sources of heat beneath the ice. In return, Lyra and Navarra shared their knowledge of Cryavara, its creatures, and its hidden dangers. They were an unusual team, alien and human, but their cooperation was seamless, almost instinctive. During this time, the sisters' feelings toward Ethan deepened. They had always valued independence, but they could not deny the growing admiration and trust they felt for him. They watched as he risked himself to check unstable ice, as he worked tirelessly to keep them warm, as he remained calm and decisive in situations that would have terrified almost any other being. He was not just strong or clever, he was extraordinary in a way that transcended species. One evening, as the sky darkened and the wind died to a gentle whisper, Lyra spoke softly to Navarra. "We cannot leave him, not yet. We owe him our lives, and more than that, I think he has shown us what true courage is." Navarra nodded, her eyes reflecting the faint light of the shelter. "I feel the same. I cannot imagine leaving him behind." Ethan, unaware of their conversation, prepared a small meal for them. The sisters watched him quietly, their hearts full of gratitude and something more, a growing sense of connection that neither had experienced before. The next day, they faced a new challenge. A sudden icequake shook the plains, opening a deep crevasse between them and the path back to the ridge where they had been gathering supplies. Ethan quickly assessed the situation. "We can cross it," he said, "but carefully, one at a time. Lyra, Navarra, stay close to me." The sisters followed his lead, hearts pounding. Ethan tested each foothold, guiding them with precision and care. When Navarra nearly slipped, he caught her instantly, holding her steady with a calm reassurance that left her momentarily breathless, not from fear, but from awe. "You saved us again," she whispered, barely audible. Ethan smiled. "We save each other. That's what companions do." By nightfall, they had crossed the dangerous area and returned to relative safety. Exhausted but uninjured, they set up camp and rested. Lyra and Navarra lay close to the heater, reflecting on the day's events. Every risk Ethan had taken, every careful step he had made to protect them, only deepened their attachment. As the stars shimmered above Cryavara, Lyra spoke softly, almost to herself. "He is unlike anyone we have ever known. Humans, they are not weak. He has shown us that strength comes from heart, courage, and wisdom." Navarra reached over and took her sister's hand. "And now, we cannot leave him. He is part of our lives, part of us." Ethan, unaware of the silent promises being made, simply watched the stars. He felt a quiet satisfaction at seeing the sisters safe and learning to thrive in a hostile world. But he did not realize the depth of the bond that had formed, that these two alien sisters, once terrified and alone, had found not just a savior, but someone they would follow, trust, and perhaps even come to call family. The journey was far from over. Cryavara still held dangers, and their communication with their home planet was incomplete. Yet the human and the two alien sisters were no longer just survivors. They were a team, bound by trust, respect, and the knowledge that together they could face any challenge. And as the cold wind whispered outside, Ethan remained unaware that his simple acts of courage had changed the lives of two alien beings forever. They would follow him, they would protect him, and in the harsh expanse of Cryavora, they had found a bond that would not be broken, not by ice, not by storms, not even by the vast gulf between their worlds. The night grew colder, but inside the shelter, warmth filled every corner. The sisters slept peacefully, knowing that they were safe. And Ethan, quietly vigilant, watched over them, a human among aliens, a bridge between worlds, and a reminder that courage, compassion, and loyalty could transcend the boundaries of species. Tomorrow, the journey would continue, and they would face it together.